Hello dear students, I hope all of you will be fine. In this video lecture, we are starting a masterpiece of modern poetry, The Waste Land, which was written by T.S. Eliot. It has 5 parts. In this lecture, we will study its part 1, The Burial of the Dead. This is the title of the part 1 of The Waste Land. First of all, we will discuss its introduction and some important points of its analysis. Then we will move forward towards its text. The Burial of the Dead. The title refers firstly to the burial of the dead fertility, and secondly, the burial services of the Christian Church. Both these things are presented by T.S. Eliot, that fertility and the Christian Church that are being dead. It is believed that both burials are followed by rebirth. However, the denizens, the citizens of the waste land are spiritually dead. They do not like to be disturbed from their stupor or the fertile routine of the modern life. As such, any idea of spiritual regeneration is uninviting and painful to them. Moreover, their value system is different from the traditional one. April is traditionally regarded as a symbol of spring and rebirth, while winter is a symbol of death and decay. Winter is a symbol of decay and death. However, for the wastelanders, April is a bad and cruel month because it reminds them of their spiritual decay and makes them think of regeneration. They are happy in winter because they can enjoy and make merry during that period. Usually you see that people welcome the arrival of April, the arrival of spring, but the people of wasteland, they don't welcome this arrival of spring and of April. According to them, the winter is a sort of joyful time for them in which they remain very comfortable in their houses and they can enjoy their life. They don't want to get out. They don't want to go outside and enjoy the beauties of nature. This is the approach of the modern man that is criticized by T.S. Eliot. That's why he calls this land, the modern land, a wasteland. That the people are wasting their lives, the people are wasting their land. They don't want to enjoy the beauty of their land, right? Now we have some critical appreciation of this poem, and then we will move forward towards the text. The first important point regarding this poem is modern sterility and rootlessness. Through a protagonist named Tiresias, Eliot gives his impressions about the modern people. Tiresias has come across a German princess. She is fond of travel. She is an example of a rootless modern person. She has no connection with her family, community, and nation. She is a kind of international globe trotter, fond of the physical comforts of life. As they go through Munich, they are overtaken by a shower of rain. They do not realize the purifying power of rain, but rather seek shelter from it. Usually you see that if you are on a travel and you want to enjoy, and rain comes and you enjoy it according to the romantic poetries. But in the modern poetry, where there is pessimism, these people don't like rain. They are seeking for some shelter. They don't want to enjoy in the rain, right? Next point is spiritual wasteland. Tiresias has a close look at modern civilization, and his assessment is that it is wholly futile and dead. The stone, the trees, and the sun, the broken idols, all represent the spiritual wasteland. Nothing spiritual, heroic, and idealistic can grow in his unproductive land. There is no shelter from the heat of the sun. Only the Christian church can offer a shelter to humanity. The shadow of the red rock Christian church is different from the shadow of man, which is fleeting. The sheet anchor or the pillar which can save modern man is spiritualism. Man is a handful of dust. He can be immortal if he follows the Christian way. The modern wasteland is very much like the wasteland mentioned in the Bible. If Christ was able to regenerate man in the past, he can do so in the present time also. According to T.S. Eliot, the whole life of the modern man is like a wasteland. The modern man is wasting his land, wasting his life. There is nothing fertile, nothing beneficial in the life of modern man. They are just wasting their lives. They are not doing something worthwhile for the society. Next point regarding this poem is an obstacle in spiritualism. The first obstacle in spiritualism is sex. Sex occupies a very prominent place in modern life. At one time, sex was considered a means of human development. Great men and spiritual leaders used sex as the stepping stone. From physical love to spiritual love is the way of many mystics. Unfortunately, sex today has become an animal urge without any moral or social commitment. Eliot gives two examples of guilty love, love which brings misery and death. The first example is from Wagner's opera. It is the story of Tristan and Isolde. The second example is the recent one, to be extended more, the story of Hyacinth Girl. Both the examples show the barrenness, boredom, and frustration of mundane sex. According to T.S. Eliot, the basic purpose of sex was to have the fertility of human life, to grow to progress and growth and development of human life, growth and development of generation. But the modern man has changed this concept. The modern man, the modern society is using this natural object, just for the sake of pleasure. Next important obstacle in the way of spirituality is gambling. In this poem, there is Madame Sosostris. She is the fortune teller. Another hurdle in the way of spiritual progress is gambling. In any big city, one will come across this evil in different forms. Eliot mentions Madame Sosostris, a society fortune teller who is afraid of the police. She has a pack of 78 cards through which she tells the fortune of her customers. The important cards in her tarot pack are the drowned Phoenician sailor, Belladonna, the lady of the rocks, sex pimp, the man with the 3 staves, the wheel, one-eyed merchant, and the crowds of people. The different things mentioned in the cards are elaborated in the remaining section of the poem. That madam is a fortune teller, and she tells the people about their future, right? And she is very much afraid of the police. It shows that the gambling is not allowed in any of the society of the world, but people are practicing it. So this is a big satire and criticism on the modern society. Next we are told about the London. London is called the unreal city. Eliot calls London the unreal city because it has no vitality and substance. The people lack faith and character, and they are the citizens of the spiritual wasteland. Crowds of the people go over London Bridge at 9 o'clock in the morning for work. This hour, 9 o'clock, has a reference to Christ's crucifixion. When commerce begins, Christianity goes out. Eliot laments the lot of Londoners because they are leading a kind of life which may be called life in death. It means that they are spiritually barren and dead. There is no fertility in their life. There is no color in their life. There is no, you can say, prosperity and growth and development, positive development in their life. They are living a futile life. There is nothing beneficial for the society. Their life is life in death. They are physically alive but spiritually dead. And now he says that there is no hope of resurrection. There is the mentioning of corpse, dead body. Tiresias, who is the mouthpiece of the poet, recognizes one man named Stetson, who had fought with him in the war. He asks him whether the corpse which he had planted in his garden has bloomed. He further advises him to keep the dog away from the corpse, as he may dig it up and thereby eliminate the chance of rebirth. The dog is a symbol of conscience, which is likely to awaken humanity to its spiritual decay. The idea behind the corpse and the dog is that without faith and conscience, man cannot be reborn. He cannot fulfill his spiritual destiny. The conclusion of the poem is the first section means the burial of the dead. The first section of the wasteland is a statement about the modern man and his civilization. He has lost faith in moral and spiritual values. He has taken to sex, gambling, and violence, which have dried up sources of his vitality. Rebirth is possible only through the revival of spiritual values. So in this whole section, T.S. Eliot elaborates about the spiritual decay of the modern man. Right? So I hope you have had an idea about regarding the title, regarding the main concept behind the main reason behind the title, that why T.S. Eliot has given the title as The Wasteland, because the modern society is the wastage of time. They are not spiritually developed. Understood? So we will have a look at the text of the poem and also its analysis and paraphrasing. Right? Look at the text. It will be also with you. And the poet says in the first portion, The Burial of the Dead, that April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory of the desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us, coming over the Starnbergeries, Starnbergeries, Starnberg, Starnberg, Starnbergersee, with a shower of rain. Starnbergersee is a lake. Starnbergersee is a lake in Germany, right? With a shower of rain, we stopped in the colonnade and went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee and talked for an hour. These lines are in German language, and when we were children staying at the Aqueduct, my cousins, he took me out on a sled, and I was frightened. He said, Mary, Mary, hold on tight, and down he went in the mountains. There you feel free. Now we look at the paraphrasing of this line number 1 to 17. The burial of dead. The burial of dead means spiritual decadence and death of the wastelanders. For the wastelanders, April is the cruelest month, which brings birth to flowers from the land. These flowers imply rebirth, which requires some effort on their part. The wastelanders do not wish to put any spiritual effort, and as such, April is unwelcome to them. April mixes memory with desire, the memory of the death of fertility god along with the desire of rebirth. April brings with it the life-giving rain, which is disliked by the wastelanders. They, however, like winter, which is a symbol of spiritual death. It keeps them warm and looking for excitement and joy of life, though winter feeds life a little, which is the season for the joys of the flesh. Next he says, next he mentioned about the rootlessness of the modern man, right? These lines contain thought of Tiresias, the spokesman of the poem. He is the spokesman of the poem, who is a representative of the modern world. Tiresias and his girlfriend were traveling in Germany, where, when they were taken over by summer rain, they took shelter under the columns of the trees, and thereafter walked in the sunshine to the Hofgarten, where they drank coffee and gossiped for an hour. Hofgarten is a sort of park in Germany. Actually, I was telling you in the critical appreciation that those people don't like rain. Okay, the rain is there, and they took shelter under the columns of tree. Colonnade is called the columns of trees, where you can take shelter and you can save yourself from rain. Mary says, I am not Russian at all. I come from Lithuania. I am a real German. The German line that was there, I mentioned, that was in the text, line number 12. It means, I am not Russian at all. I came from Lithuania. I am a real German. When Mary was a child, she stayed with her cousin, the Archduke. He took her out on a sled, and she was much frightened. He asked her to hold the sled tightly, and they traveled down together. They felt quite free when they wandered into the mountains. Now she spends her time reading till late in the night. During winter, She goes to the south to enjoy her holidays. I read much of the nights and go south in the winter. Look in the text. What are the roots that clutch? What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images where the sun beats, and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief, and the dry stone no sound of water. Only there is a shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at the morning striding behind you or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. Now look at the analysis of these lines. These lines show the chaos in the wasteland. What kind of trees and fruits grow out of the barren and dead wasteland? The answer is in the negative. Nothing spiritual can grow in the barren land. Man can find only broken images, which are the remains of old cultures and values, since abandoned by man. There is no shelter from the heat of the sun, under the shade of dead trees. The singing cricket gives no entertainment, and there is no sound of water to provide relief or hope. There is only one relief, namely the red rock of the Christian faith. Man can find a shelter in the message of Christ. The shadow of faith is immortal and much different from the shadow of man, who is mortal. In youth, man's shadow is behind him. In old age, man's shadow comes in front of him, so to say, to meet him easily. Man is haunted by the fear of death and the anger of God. Essentially, man is a handful of dust who is in the fear of death. So, according to T.S. Eliot, man is totally in wastage. Man is full of fear. He knows he has to die. He has to go towards God, and there is only one thing which can save him, that is Christ, the message of Christ. He can only get the shelter if he goes under the shelter of Christ and the message of Christ. Next lines, these lines in front of you from the text, these are also from German language, right? And these lines means the wind blows fresh to the homeland, my Irish girl. Where are you lingering? Okay, this is the song of the sailor about the sweetheart who has left behind. That was the sailor, and her girlfriend, her beloved, was behind him, and he was missing her, right? You gave me hyacinths first a year ago. They call me the hyacinth girl. Yet when we came back late from the hyacinth garden, your arms full and your hair wet, I could not speak and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I knew nothing. Looking into the heart of light, the silence, old and leer des mir. In these lines, actually this is the episode of guilty love, right? There are two episodes of Guilty Love, and first is the story of that person that who is the sailor, right? And he is missing he is missing his beloved. Okay. The second story of Guilty Love is that of the hyacinth girl and her lover. The hyacinth girl says to her lover, "You gave me hyacinth flowers. These flowers are symbolic of sensuous love. A year ago, people therefore call me the hyacinth girl. When we came back, late from the hyacinth garden, I could not speak a word and I could not see anything. I was neither living nor dead. I was not conscious as I stood looking at the core of life, which is silent." This is actually a feeling due to guilty love. The last line of the stanza is from Wagner's opera mentioned above. It means, "Desolate and empty the sea." This is the reply of the watchman from whom the lover inquires if there is any sign of a ship on the sea bringing his beloved. The reply is in the negative. Actually, the story is about a couple who met in the garden, and they had the moments of sensual love, and they are feeling guilty about that. Madame Sauceresse. Madame Sauceresse, famous clairvoyant. Clairvoyant means thus you can say the fortune teller. Clairvoyant means the fortune teller. Madame Sauceresse, about whom I told you earlier in the analysis, had a bad cold. Nevertheless, is known to be the wisest woman in Europe, with a wicked pack of cards. Here, said she, is your card, the drowned Phoenician sailor. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Look, here is Belladonna, the lady of the rocks, the lady of situations. Here is the man with 3 staves, and here the wheel, and here is the one-eyed merchant. And this card, which is blank, is something he carries on his back, which I am forbidden to see. I do not find the hanged man, fear death by water. I see crowds of people walking around in a ring. Thank you if you see dear Mrs. Aquitone. Tell her I bring the horoscope myself. One must be so careful these days. There is a modern fortune teller. Why she is called the modern fortune teller? Because she is representing the thinking of the modern society. Madame Sauceresse, the famous fortune teller, was suffering from a bad cold. She is known as the wisest woman in Europe because she tells the fortunes of people with her pack of cards. To one of her customers she said, "Here is your card, the drowned Phoenician sailor. Look at his eyes, they are like pearls. Here is another card, Belladonna, the lady of the rocks and the lady of sex situations." She was called the goddess. Actually, Belladonna was the goddess of sex. Here is yet another card of the man with 3 sticks. Here is another card representing the wheel. Here is another card of one-eyed merchant. Here is yet another card which is blank, which indicates something which the merchant carries on his back and which I cannot forecast. There is no card of the hanged man, Christ. Here is another card for those who shone be careful of death by drowning. There is the mistake in the typing, I think, here. Who should be careful of death by drowning. I see crowds of people walking mechanically in a circle. Thank you if you meet my friend Mrs. Equiton. Tell her I have prepared her horoscope and shall bring it myself. I must be very careful these days. The fortune teller practiced an illegal business and therefore she is afraid of the police. She is actually giving the message for her friend Mrs. Equiton that she shouldn't come to her because she will herself come to her, because police is moving around these days and there is the possibility that police can catch them, police can capture them, right? Next is the mentioning of London. Unreal city. Unreal city is the term used for London. Unreal city. Under the brown fog of a winter dawn, a crowd flowed over London Bridge. So many, I had not thought death had undone so many. Sighs, short and infrequent, were exhaled, and each man fixed his eyes before his feet, flowed up the hill and down King William Street to where St. Mary Walnut kept the oars with a dead sound on the final stroke of 9. Till these lines, the poet says that unreal city London, under the blanket of a brown fog on a winter morning, a crowd of people passes over the London Bridge. There are so many people that they cannot be counted. I never thought that so many people were spiritually dead. As these people walk, they give forth short and occasional sighs. Each man walked mechanically with downcast eyes. The crowd moved up the hill and down the road to King William Street, where it passed the church of St. Mary Walnut. The church clock chimed the hour of 9 as the crowd proceeded along the road. Actually, he is portraying London as a sort of unreal city, and the people are spiritually dead in London. They have nothing worthwhile to do. They are just wasting their time in petty things. There I saw one I knew, and stopped him, crying, Stetson, you who were with me in the ship at Male. Male is a place where both of them, Tiresias and Stetson, were on a ship. That core you planted last year in your garden, has it begun to sprout? Will it bloom this year, or has the sudden frost disturbed its bed? Oh, keep the dog far hence, that's friend to men, or with his nails he will dig it up again. You, hypocrite lector, mon semblable, mon frere. Here, Tiresias comes across his old friend, Stetson, the representative of the wasteland. Tiresias, the protagonist and the mouthpiece of T.S. Eliot, appears on the stage and addresses his friend Stetson, who is walking in a London street. In the street, I saw an acquaintance of mine. Now, Tiresias is telling, I stopped him and called him by his name, Stetson, and said, You were with me in the ships of Miley, what happened to that cross which you planted last year in your garden? Has it begun to sprout? Sprout means that has he like a plant or a tree's growth. He is asking that has that core, that body has started showing something like that, something. Dead body is the symbol of bad luck. Okay, having some negativity in society. So he is asking that it started to spread negativity, and that dead body is the is symbolizing the dead people, spiritually dead people of modern society. Okay, he asked whether that aspect of negativity and spiritual death has started impact on the society or not. Will it bloom this year? Will it bloom this year means will it start spreading that negativity and bad luck in the society this year, or has this sudden frost disturbed its bed and blighted its growth? The reference is to the resurrection after death, which is the sign of spiritual rebirth. According to them, whether the spiritual death of the people of modern society will change into rebirth or not. Oh, keep the dog away from the cause. The dog is the friend of man, or with his nails he will dig up the earth again. The last line is a quotation from Baudelaire's poem. It means as under: "You hypocrite reader, the word lector in the text means reader. My fellow man, my brother, this warning given to the Stetson is applicable to all men of the modern world, that there is no chance of spiritual rebirth and regeneration in the wasteland." It means that the approach of the modern man in the wasteland, if it is continued, then there will be no chance of regeneration, rebirth, revival of the spiritual values and divine inspiration. The whole society will become completely dead. So, dear students, you have to go through it all, and I hope you have watched this video lecture carefully and try to note down the important points in the second attempt. Okay, and it will be very much beneficial for you, for your literary purposes, your academic and your exams purposes. And in the next video, next section number 2 of the wasteland, that is a game of chess, it will be reviewed, it will be presented in front of you in the next video lecture. And it is very much beneficial for you to subscribe this channel, so it will be easy for you to have an access to all the beneficial videos, informative and literary videos regarding your subject. Thank you very much. Good luck.